What's up, everyone? It's Noah Daniels.
Hey, y'all. I'm JJ.
Hey, guys. It's Kat.
And we're your hosts of the Real Hauntings podcast, where we bring on guests to share their first-hand encounter ghost stories and supernatural experiences. Now on to the trailer.
I've been warned to not tell this story, but I think because of the way it ends, it's okay to tell this story, because some people say that with certain entities, to speak of them or talk about them or in any way portray them as powerful will attract them to other people. The creepiest thing about it to me is a lot of times it would wait for me to notice it. It would just lay its arm out like this, and then I'd be like, where is it? Where is it? And then I'd see it, and then it would just slither back.
For more information on the Real Hauntings, Real Ghost Stories podcast, make sure you check out real.fm to learn more about our podcast and many other amazing podcasts.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, a founder of the Go Kid Go network. At Go Kid Go, putting kids first is at the heart of every show that we produce. That's why we're so excited to introduce a brand new show to our network called The Search for the Silver Lining, a fantasy adventure series about a spirited young girl named Isla who time travels to the mythical land of Camelot. Look for The Search for the Silver Lining on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of But Am I Wrong? Starring two people who have never once, ever been wrong.
I like that energy.
Thank you. I'm overcompensating because I'm asleep inside. Holy.
How are you? Hi. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm okay. Now I'm freezing. We started today where I was so fucking hot and sweaty and changed into a tank top and shorts, and now I put on pants and a long sleeve.
Ironically, as you were saying that, the sun just came out very bright.
Yeah, the sun's now coming out here again too. So maybe I will have to strip on the podcast, which good thing we're on Patreon. Check us out. Maybe you'll see a titty.
It wouldn't be the first time.
No. They pop out. They pop in, pop out unannounced. They're a welcomed intruder. Titty intruder. Anyways, so this podcast, we've got many segments on here, but really what you need to know, the through line of all of this is we're Meghan and Melisa, and we are never, ever wrong. And therefore, we have a podcast, which is far more credentials than most of these men with microphones have.
You know, some of them, they do have points.
Yeah, some of them.
And I say they're good points, but they have points.
No. Yeah, they have points. They have voices, and they have audio tracks, and they have microphones. Sometimes they have good microphones. Sometimes they don't. And do you know what most of them have? Bald heads.
Yeah. There are two guys that I think are funny that have microphones, and they're not. They seem like on the surface that they're toxic males, just from their appearances and accents, but they're not.
Frankie and Joey.
Yep.
Yeah. Frankie and Joey. There's a very short list of men who are allowed to have podcasts, and Frankie and Joey are up there.
Yes.
They without a doubt
they're
are.
very
no,
funny.
I love them. They're really, really, really funny. I think they do a good job of their content, because they're just Nick and Schmidt energy, the whole thing.
Yes,
it's
that's
Nick and
exactly
Schmidt.
what it is.
That's why it works so well, because Frankie's obsessed with Joey and loves him so much, and he's like, oh my god, stop, why are you so obsessed with me? And they're just so funny. Not to give free promo to men, but they can have it.
This is just proving not all men.
Not all men, which is funny that you say that, because my one of my topics I'm talking about is a lot of, well, not all, and I'm like, pipe down,
simmer down.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so how do people participate, Meghan?
So we do love an audience participation. So we've got 3 different segments on this show, and we will obviously say our opinions which are also facts, but we solicit yours. We would like to hear your thoughts, if you agree with us, if you disagree with us. So we post all of the circumstances, situations, things we talk about on each segment on the Instagram story for our podcast account. And you can vote on who you think was wrong in each situation. And you can also send us some words with it. Like if you disagree with what we said, or you have some other insight or anything, like we love, or you agree with us, like we love to hear like other people's thought process when hearing like the same things that we hear or see or deal with. And yeah, it's a good time. Head on over to the Instagram. My apologies for not posting for posting one far later than I've ever posted one before. Melissa and I just realized today that I never posted it.
Like I 100% thought that but a lot of people wrote in about one specific thing. So I think that's why, like they already just shared their thoughts on it. And I think that's why I thought you had already posted it, because I thought they were responding to that, but they're not. They're just being ahead of the curve.
Good job for them.
All right, here's our update. First, apologies, Melissa, for misspelling your name. Thank you. So this is from an episode that this person was with a group of their classmates, and the classmates had said something about someone being adopted and them out finding their parents and why they weren't there. So this is an update to that one. I ended up FaceTiming Mallory because I wanted to make sure nothing was getting miscommunicated. For some context, her text also accused me of misremembering things that was a quote unquote private conversation. I made her repeat in front of the group, etc., which made me angry that she was only seeing that I was attacking her and not how hurt I was. So I wanted to have the last word. Over FaceTime, I explained that by repeating something, you are at some level co-signing it. So it's kind of a cop-out to say that she doesn't take accountability for the original statement. I also explained that already referring to Allie as, quote unquote, the adopted girl comes out as derogatory against part of her identity. Like, Allie is a bitch, but let's just call her a bitch and be done. We don't have to insult things out of her control. That's just low. I also told her her message was really upsetting and didn't give me a lot to move on from, wasn't productive, and she told me that she meant it to be attacking because that's how she communicates when she's upset and feels attacked. Since we're graduating, I ended up just wanting to be done with it. I've definitely lost a lot of trust in Mallory and honestly don't see our friendship continuing as is, but I hope she's learned something and can grow. She did say she talked to John, the originator of the comment, about it. But for me, it was more also about her being my friend and her behavior and treatment toward me. Also, when I went individually to the others and they were immediately apologetic, embarrassed, and gave me full heart-to-heart apologies. So this might just be a her problem. So.
Wow.
They all still seem like they suck. What else?
Awful. Like, yeah, no, I meant it to be mean. Like, yeah. I was trying. Yeah, fuck them.
Yeah. Since you're graduating, you don't have to see these people again.
Anyways.
All right. Well, should we get into our first segment? But am I wrong?
And what segment is this, Melissa?
That is when you and I, Megan, picked something from our own personal lives that could be something that we might have been wrong about, a hot take, a rant, anything that's really grinding our gears right now. I'll go first. Since it's still technically spring, my hot take / rant / but it's like all the segments of but am I wrong? All the different things it could be. This is all of it. It's time to do some spring cleaning for friendships.
Love this.
I have a friend that I used to enjoy her company, and I've recently realized that every time we're together, she spends 95% of the conversation complaining about things that she sees as injustices in her life, her other terrible friendships, and how her work is never fair, even though she's self-employed. And at this point, I'm like, she has to take some responsibility because there's no way that like the whole world is just against her. And there's no reason that she should just be this miserable, because she always seems like the victim in everything. And I'm like, I just don't understand. And we were recently somewhere and she snapped at a fellow patron that was there, because actually it really doesn't even matter. She just snapped at this person and was really rude to them. And then afterwards, she sought out some people at this venue to talk to the manager and was trying to get like free stuff out of this, even though it was in no way the venue's fault. It was just this person couldn't find something and she was mad about it. And they were, in her view, getting in her way. And so the venue was like, I mean, I guess I can give you like some free candy or something. And she wasn't satisfied. And she's like, but like, what are you going to do about it? And this is a place that I frequent a lot. I told them, I was like, I'm sorry. I apologize. Like, I apologize for rudeness and stuff. And I was just like, and then I told her, I was like, you don't need to snap at them. And then I was like, maybe this is actually how she is in her everyday life. And this is why, because it was like one thing and then another thing. And I was like, maybe this is why she feels like the world is against her, because she's actually just like a rude person. And like I said, like she spent our whole time together, like going into the place, talking about this job that she took where she knew that she wasn't getting paid the fair amount. And she was like, yeah, but it's going to be good exposure, but then was complaining about the whole thing. And this is how a lot of our conversations go, is like, she just feels like she, in her career, that she is just not being taken seriously. And so like, this woman is older than me, has been in her career for 20 plus years. And I'm just like, it can't just always be someone else. And then also, it can't always be that like, that your friends are just always so mean to you. And it can't always be that like, the world is against you. There has to be something else. And I've asked her, I was like, why are you still friends with these people? Blah, blah. She always makes excuses. And I'm just like, at this point, I'm just tired. Like, I was going to this place thinking that I had a terrible week last week. Like, and I thought this was going to be something where I could decompress for a second. And it was just like one thing after another. And I was just like, I am mentally exhausted. And I realized she never asked me how I was doing.
About to ask you that.
Yeah, she never asked me how I was doing, because, you know, I would have mentioned that my aunt had passed away. Like, I was not in a good, like, I really was like, this is going to be great. This is going to be fun. She also had invited herself to come along with me to this thing. Like, I hadn't invited her. And then she, like, you know, she didn't even like say, you know, like, what are you doing this weekend? And if she had said that, I'd been like, well, I'm going out of town. Like, she never asked anything about what was happening in my life. And I was like, why am I still friends with this person? Because this is how all of our conversations are. Like, I don't think that she knows that much. Like, it's a one-sided friendship. I'm a friend to her and she's not a friend to me at all. And so I'm going to have to like sit down and talk to her and be like, this friendship is over, because she's not the kind of person that I can just ghost, because she's going to keep sending messages and texts and calling. Like, so yeah. So I'm just saying, if you feel like you're in a one-sided friendship, it's time to get rid of them. And that's what I will be doing.
Yeah.
And I've known this person for years, at least like 5 years, at least 5 years.
That friend, I was talking to you about like a friend circumstance situation that I had a couple weeks ago that was like this. And everything you're saying to yourself now was like what you were saying to me. You're like, they didn't even ask you about like all of this thing. Like, that's a very one-sided stuff. And like, it's hard to like recognize it. And then sometimes like, yeah, going out in public and seeing how they treat other people, it's like, oh, this is a character flaw.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't, when you're only hearing things through other, like their lens and stuff, like you don't see how they behave in the world. And it goes like, oh, I don't want to be associated with this.
Mm-hmm.
That's unfortunate. And I hope that the ending of it goes well.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how else it's gonna go well for me either way.
No, I know.
Because when I'm done
you'll
with
just
somebody,
disengage.
I'm
Like,
done.
goodbye.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, spring cleaning is I should do some psychological spring cleaning too. It's a good call.
Yeah, I do need to do the physical, but I also don't want to.
I know. I wholeheartedly understand. I feel the same fucking way. I'm like, I really need to do this, but like, that doesn't sound fun. And unless something's fun, like, I'm not gonna do it.
You know what's really fun? Using a little Bissell. That's fun. So maybe I just need different toys for different things and it'll make it more exciting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, your turn.
My But Am I Wrong is, I hope to God, not a fucking hot take. You know what I really hope it is, Melissa? I hope it's a revolution. I hope I'm about to change the trajectory of personal dining moving forward.
Okay, well, this has me intrigued because I have a lot of thoughts when it comes to personal dining, but go on.
I think it's time that we give the respect, the accolades, the time and attention that fondue deserves.
Okay, I agree.
So the melting pot was like one of those things that like one of those restaurants that was a birthday place that you would go in Marin where I grew up. It would be like, are you going to have a hotel birthday party where like you get a suite and like everyone stays there? And then you are you going to do the melting pot for dinner with like friends and then like go do something else? Or are you going to do both? Like it was a place. First of all, it's dinner and a show and you are the show. Like it's Benihana, but you're in the driver's seat. You're behind the counter. Like it gives you something to do. It's so fun. How fun on a date. Like that's something to like do with your hands. I love an activity. I think it's criminal that they stopped that or that they only give children things to color when you're waiting for your food. Like I think everyone should be given crayons and things to color with. I would prefer colored pencils, but like I'll take a goddamn fucking crayon. But like fondue, what happened? What happened to fondue? Where did the trend go away? And I think what the real renaissance needs to be, because at a restaurant, it's fun, but you can't have really great turnover because you have to spend the time for your food to cook. So like you're there for a while and it takes a while like to get full because you're cooking and you're eating. Like it's a long process. So I think we need to bring fondue machines into the home, similar to air fryers. I think I should be able to post up on my sofa with a TV show, and I should be able to have a little stand and a little fondue there right next to me. But like it should be the norm. Like it should be something that we implement back into our lives. Like I think the idea of like an after school snack, I can't have cheese, but like people who can, imagine an after school snack. You turn on you have fondue, cheese fondue as an after school snack. Dessert, fantastic. Dinner, wonderful, amazing. The real crux of this to me is why I'm so desperate for this to become a personal dining product is because right now, the only place where I'm seeing fondue machines get the love and respect they deserve is a place that I think they have no business being at. And that is weddings and large events with multiple people dipping their things into a collective vat of liquid. No. Charcuterie boards were nasty enough. You have your grummy little fingers on lukewarm, room temperature, sliced cured meats. I was not okay with that, but I tolerated it. And now you're going to dip a piece of bread into a communal vat of cheese. And you know what you're going to do? You're going to stick that whole thing in your mouth. You're going to get your little tongue germs and your mouth germs on your skewer. And then you're going to fork another piece of bread and dip right back in there. Criminal. And I'm afraid that people who are on our side, anti-communal charcuterie boards, are going to become anti-fondue, when in reality, fondue is just not in the environment where she needs to be to thrive. She has been miscast. We need to bring her back into the home.
So, as someone who grew up going to a lot of charity events and to banquets and things,
I love fondue.
Fondue was the norm at these events. Until one day, a little kid stuck their hand in the chocolate fondue. And I went and told on them.
Good.
Then after that, after every event after that, they then started having a staff member man the station where they would tell them, like, here's your skewer, you only use it for one thing, and then you throw it away and you get a new. So there are ways to do this in the mainstream of weddings and things. If you have someone that is monitoring it. So it can be done.
It's the same person who is going to save the Vegas buffets.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. It's that role. Good call. Because as a child, I definitely would have stuck my hand in that.
I mean, it's a whole thing of chocolate. Of course, like
as an adult, like that's also why I want a personal one. I want to be able to do that.
One, you can do it all you want to. I also do like hot pot and shabu shabu, which there was a place in downtown that I would go. This is before I met you. Every birthday, I was at this place.
Thank you for clarifying that. You're like, I wasn't depriving you of this. We didn't know each other yet.
And I would go anytime somebody would come to town, I was going there.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got rid of the parking lot and started building something else there. And so then the patron, because there was no parking in downtown, there was literally no parking around it. So the patronage of it dropped. I even forced some people I was working with to take me there on a birthday, even though I was going there later that day. Now that I remember that.
Double dipping twice in one day.
But they would have, you would get the meats and do your meat and stuff. But then they'd also have cheeses and then also desserts. So you get a whole tray of like cakes and cookies with chocolate, and it would be like matcha, and I don't like that, and white chocolate, don't like that either, but regular chocolate and Nutella and stuff. And so it's like the same thoughts behind it. Great. I love it. There used to be an infomercial that had like fondue at home.
That fucking machine, I either had one or
it's so hard to clean.
That's the thing that like, I just think we need to revolutionize this, because I need it to look luxe. I need people to want to put it on wedding registries. Like, I don't want this to be plastic. I don't want it to be bright red. Like, I want this to look classy as hell. Like, this needs to be a gorgeous item. I need Le Creuset to make one. I need Cuisinart. I need KitchenAid. Like, I need
Cuisinart
this.
Cuisinart does make one. When I typed it in, that's the first thing.
Is it ugly?
Came up. No.
The proof of concept is there. First of all, people loved fondue when it was in its heyday, but also between hot pot and Korean barbecue places where you're doing your own meats and like marinades and you're putting things on there, like people love an activity.
Right.
Give me the reins. Like, let me do this. And also, I'm pretty sure you waive all of the liability, because you're like, if you eat something undercooked, that's your goddamn fucking fault.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, I'm looking at the pictures and no, this one is nice. This is $100 one from, this looks like Food 52. This one looks cute.
Yeah, that's did you see the one that I sent you? I texted you?
Oh no, I'm on Do Not Disturb. We need to find a way to make the
fountain. It's the fondue
fountain. The fountain looking luxurious.
Mm-hmm.
Like call up whoever designed the Bellagio fountain. Can they design a new fondue fountain? Because I just think that she's ready for her resurgence. Like, we're rebooting every TV show. All of the trends are coming back in. When is it fondue's turn?
This is a question.
Okay, we're gonna take a break.
With something like 5 million podcasts, finding a really good one can take a ton of time. So let me recommend one. It's called Something You Should Know. I'm the host, Mike Carruthers, and in each episode, we discuss topics that can be really helpful, like how to read people better, the psychology of crowds, or fun things like the story of Legos, or why you probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for horses. Something You Should Know is the name of it, wherever you get your podcasts.
We're back from a break, and we're getting into our next segment, which is But Are You Wrong? Where you, listeners, write in and submit the predicaments in your life, the situations where you're like, unsure. Am I the hero? Am I the villain? Was I wrong? Would I be wrong? Am I currently wrong? And we tell you. So you can submit it to butamiwrongpod@gmail.com. You have to keep it under 300 words. We do ask that it's obviously anonymous. So if you're going to be talking about other people, give some pseudonyms, some things that help the story be told, and include your ages for people involved.
All right. So here's mine. It's pretty funny, but sad, but funny.
The fuck is that kind of intro?
I usually don't even intro it, but I just
I know. I was like, I'm like looking for where that says that, and I was like, what is going on?
This is me. This is me.
You're off the cuff. I can't.
It says, "Hi," and I say that because they put 2 H's for the I. Hi, Meghan and Melisa. Last night was the finale for Vanderpump, which I have recently started watching following the scandal drama. I watched, and my husband, who is not a fan of the show, sat in the room with me. Later, when I tried to initiate sex, context, my husband was leaving for a work trip the next day, so this was the last night we had to connect for a while. This was met with my husband saying, "I don't really think I'm in the mood after what I just had to listen to." He then went on a long rant about how morally corrupt the show was and how terrible it made him feel to even be around it. I felt shocked and belittled, as well as upset at the implication of what that meant for me. If it was so terrible he couldn't stomach the thought of sex after, what does that make me for being a fan? Am I wrong for feeling this was unfair to me? I respect his feelings on the matter, and I understand that this kind of content isn't for everyone, but the context of when he decided to bring this up to me was really hurtful and made me feel undesirable. I'm not upset about us not having sex last night, but about him waiting until a vulnerable moment to unload all of this on me instead of stepping out of the room while it was on, or asking that I watch this after he leaves on his trip. Thanks for all that you do. Love the pod. Sincerely, I should have just watched Ted Lasso. That's the funny
And they
part.
say men aren't emotional. What?
Well, I mean, I, as y'all know, I used to be like heavy into all the Housewives. I watched most of all the franchises. But then I was watching so much that it started making me feel sick and angry because I wanted to fight with people all the time. And so I can I can understand how it could like get somebody not to be in the mood to have sex with you. Maybe he wasn't, when y'all were sitting down watching it, maybe he wasn't thinking about like how he would feel sexually later, or if you were even going to initiate sex, like that might not have been on his mind. And so that's why there wasn't like another time for him to bring it up, because he wasn't thinking about the future. And so I mean, like, you feeling just like he's entitled to his feelings, so are you. So I don't think you're wrong for feeling like undesirable, but and hurt, but I can understand where he's coming from.
Without a doubt. I'm him in this, like, not in this situation. Like, I'm fully writer. I'm 100% on your side, but that is because I understand your partner. And so, like, I think he could have gone about this in a very different way. So I've only gotten into the Scandival like through fucking TikToks and shit. And I watched the reunion, and Moss was asking me, he's like, "Oh, do you want to start the show from the beginning?" And I was like, no, like I don't think any of them are like good people. Like, I really don't. I have no desire to watch it. Like, we tried to watch one season, like the beginning of Salt Lake City Housewives, and we got through like an episode, like maybe all the way through, and we were just like, I do not enjoy watching where I can't root for anyone. Like, the only real like Bravo reality show that I have gotten into from like conceptually, like, I'm sure there are ones I could get into if I started them and like watched them, and like there are like, you know, redeemable characters, and it's not just like people fighting and like being terrible to each other. but was below deck because, and like Mott's and I were surprised, like, and we realized, like, oh, it's because the people, the charter people, like who are coming on, like the guests, they usually fucking suck. And so the other people, they might be bad to each other, shitty to each other, but there's always going to be, there's enough people there that the goal is not to create drama. The goal is them doing their job and like watching them do that. So I fully understand like his point of view. Like I don't like watching things that are in the same vein of like morally bankrupt, but I also don't like watching TV shows with hard drug use. I also don't like watching war movies. I don't like watching things that are like abusive level of violence, like excessive nudity and not necessary thing. Like those are all things I like do not enjoy watching, even things that are too loud and like the audio is done in a way that's supposed to be shocking, or horror movies I don't enjoy watching.
I don't even like watching things that look cold. So like
I don't even like perfect example is that I don't like watching things that are underwater because it makes me feel like I am too aware of my breathing. Like there are so many things I don't like watching, but it's my responsibility that if it is something that I know that I take with me, that I carry with me, or I have that much of a visceral reaction to it, if it's not something I can just turn on my phone and like, you know, zone out, do my own thing, then it is my responsibility to like let the person know that like I'm going to remove myself from the situation. I'm not going to tell you to turn it off, but like I'm like, I don't want to watch this. This is like really like, this makes me anxious. This is like uncomfortable, especially things that have like a fast-paced soundtrack at this point. Like my heart like rate will just spike and it takes a long fucking time for it to go down and it's really uncomfortable. And so Mott's will be like, oh no, like we can just like switch it. So for me, I think if you're jumping to the whole like morally bankrupt thing, I'm assuming a lot of the stuff he said was like, how can anyone fucking watch? Like in a way that it felt targeted. But I do think that he's not wrong for feeling that way. He is wrong for not removing himself from the situation or bringing it up to like talk through with you at a later date. Because I think that there is a lot more nuance in things that are seen as like frivolous and catty or like specifically targeted like to women. Like a lot of the stuff that like blows up or gets popular like is just drama and stuff. But like, I mean, I've talked mad shit on Vanderpump Rules and I've seen a lot of TikToks of people who are like breaking down like the nuance of like young women who grew up watching the show and like siding with one of the guys and thinking that the woman really sucked and going back and watching it and realizing that like you were hating her because you were watching a woman like set boundaries. And as an adult, you're able to like kind of look at it. And it was like all of these like nuanced things there. And so I'm sure if he engaged you in a conversation with it, you would have not co-signed awful behavior, but also would have been able to share with him like the things that you enjoy about it, even if it's something as insignificant, quote unquote, as being able to unplug from your life and things that are so unrelatable to you. But I just think shitting on something that someone else enjoys, it's just like not like a kind thing to do. And we do it unintentionally. And so like to intentionally do it, to me, I think he's in the wrong there, but I don't think he's in the wrong for how he was feeling. But maybe you're right that he just didn't realize it until that moment. I don't think he could predict that it would make him not want to have sex. So I don't think that if you're asking him to have predicted that, like now he knows, I don't think there's any way he could have predicted it. But if it's really not sitting well with him, like that's his responsibility to remove himself.
But it also might have been like he was sitting there, like this, like the writer said that like this is their last night together before he was going out of town. And maybe he was like, you know, I'm going to sit here and watch this because she wants to watch this. And this is what we're going to do before I go out of town. And then he didn't realize how much it would actually weigh on him. I don't think he went about it in the right way, but also like, again, he couldn't predict how he would feel in that moment.
Yeah, I guess like I mean, for me, I can only go for like my own experience, but I'm like, I would have to be watching it to like take it all in, to be affected by it, or I would be on my phone and then I wouldn't be able to like hear it or you know what I mean? Like I would have been, if I'm like staying there, but I'm like doing something else, then I would have been into that thing or I would have been watching it. And I think like, depending on how long he was watching it too, but I also think a lot of people are right. Like they think doing something for someone else is the nice thing to do. But if it's going to put you in a bad mood or like you're not going to enjoy it, like I would then just rather not do it as a shared experience, you know? Mm-hmm. I also think that it could also be projecting, but I don't think that either of you are wrong in the feelings, but I think that he could have handled it a lot better. But now you know.
Now you know that Vanderpump Rules isn't going to get any pump for you. You've got to, watch something a little less morally corrupt. And the funny thing about that is that they, on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, one of the women called this other woman the morally corrupt Faye Resnick. So it's just funny that he used that language when that is like a term that is
a
part
Bravo term
of Beverly Hills specifically, which is Vanderpump Rules
yeah.
is a spinoff from that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think a lot of them are good people, but I also think that they're not, when someone makes a TV show about, like, it's the most accurate I've seen of like an LA TV show of a reality show, people like that. I'm like, if you made a fucking TV show of me and my friends in LA when we are like 20 years old, none of us would look like good people. Like it's just, you're victim of circumstance, and like, it's just a televised.
Yep. And then if the cameras are constantly in your face, you don't have that experience of growing up outside of it. Like, you're going through your 20s and 30s, and now, or some of them are 30s and 40s, like they're in their early 40s, and it's just like, you don't know what it's like to be an adult without this.
Yeah. And apparently the ones who've like gotten kicked off the shows, like they're the ones who now, when they talk about things like, oh, it's so clear they've gone to therapy and like they've removed themselves from that situation. And they're like, oh, it's a bubble. And like, I wasn't able to grow without it, because you're rewarded for being awful. It's odd.
All right. Well, your turn.
All right, ladies. I need to know if I'm wrong to be annoyed here. My boyfriend, he, him, 31, and I, she, her, 27, have been together for 5 months, but officially boyfriend, girlfriend for 1 month. He posts me on his Instagram story on occasion, but he didn't post anything on my birthday. He posted something for his friend, and he posted something for his cousin's birthday, whose was a day after mine. Am I wrong for being annoyed by this? I know it's petty and silly, but it means a lot to me. Like, I always do it for close friends and former significant others. Let me know your thoughts, or if it's worth bringing up to him. Thank you. Okay, so you meant you did it for when you were in relationships. Like, if you're posting on like, happy birthday to my ex, like, wonderful, love it. I mean, I don't think you're like wrong to be annoyed, but I think it's like circumstance. So like, my friends who don't like live near me, if I don't see them on my birthday, like, those are people who are more likely going to post something about my birthday. But like, the friends who I'm spending my birthday with, like, they're rarely posting something about my birthday because we're actually spending quality time together. I think of it kind of in the same way as like sending someone a card, like thinking of you. It's like, I don't have to send you a thinking of you card because I'm not thinking of you. I'm spending time with you. And for significant others, like, I do appreciate when like someone will, like, not someone, I don't have multiple significant others, but like, I appreciate when he does that. And I think it's like sweet, and I like it, but I would have like do a double take if a long distance friend didn't post anything way before I would do it with my partner, if I was with my partner. But if I was not with him and we weren't spending time together, then at that point it is social media's currency. And sometimes it's like social currency, but also it can be relationship currency where you're not spending time together with someone and it's a gesture to show that you're thinking about someone. So I think even if you spent time together, I don't think you're wrong to be annoyed by it, but I would figure out why before you like bring it up to him.
Yeah. Does he post you in everyday
She said he
things?
does.
Yeah. So like, if he didn't, then that would be the issue with me. But I would say, like, personally, I literally got off Facebook because I hate it when people were like, why didn't you post me for blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, it's not like, I literally saw you in person. Like, this is not real. But if this is something that is important to you and he knows that, then I do think that is a little, hurtful. The complaints that I was getting were coming from people that it's not the same situation. But if he's doing it for other people, is he doing it for other people? Yeah. Yep, it's hurtful. So like, if he's doing it for other people, then yeah, it's hurtful. Then I don't think you're wrong. But if he doesn't do it for anyone else, then
I mean, he did it for his cousin 2 days after. Like,
yeah,
that
so
hurts.
That's the thing. It's like if he didn't do it for anybody else, then it's like, okay. But since he does do it for other people, then yes, you're not wrong for being upset about this.
Yeah, I think he might view it as like, oh, I didn't see them long distance, so like that's who I do it for. But it's one of those things that like, even if it's something that you're like, oh, that's not my instinct, or like that's like I don't need that from someone else. There are certain things that are like so fucking easy to do that please your partner, or like is a way that you can show your partner that you care about them, and they tell you that this is something that they value, and it's easier to just do it because it's the easiest way, where it's something that you don't even have to like, think about. It's not a lot of fucking effort, and it's someone telling you like, oh, this makes me feel really loved and appreciated. I think it's really fucked up to be like, I'm not going to do that when it's something that has no fucking skin off your. It's so fucking easy for you, and you're like, really? That, like, to me, that's like a throwaway. It's nothing. And it goes, well, fantastic for you that you now have this thing that you think of so inconsequential, so easy, so simple, so basic, that you can do, that you know makes your partner like happy and like feel good about them. But refusing to do that like on the principle because you don't think it is valuable, I think that's a red flag.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would be annoyed too. And I've not in relationships, like romantic relationships, but I've been this person before in other relationships where it's like, okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, now we're going to take a break.
Contained herein are the heresies of Radolf Buntwine, erstwhile monk turned traveling medical investigator. Join me as I study the secrets of the divine plagues and uncover the blasphemous truth that ours is not a loving God, and we are not its favored children. The heresies of Radolf Buntwine, wherever podcasts are available.
Back from our break, and now it's time for But Are They Wrong? And that's when we pick somebody in the world, in the news, in the headlines that was wrong, and we share it with the class.
Oh, tomato, tomato, tomato.
All right, so mine this week is Clifton Williams, a 64-year-old man from Louisville, Kentucky. He accused his roommate of eating their last Hot Pocket. Clifton attacked his roommate and started throwing tiles at him. And then the roommate ran outside, and Clifton got his gun and shot the roommate in the butt. And so he was arrested on assault charges. Williams is prohibited from contacting his roommate, but has non-life-threatening injuries, and his bond is set at $7,500.
I have so many questions. How long have they been roommates? Do they know? Is this their only relationship? Roommates? Was this out of the blue? Like, was this a mental health emergency, or what was the lead up to this?
A hangry event.
Is this a
you ate my Hot Pocket?
Like, because I'm like, so
yeah. I have questions too. There's not a lot of write up on this because the victim roommate has not come forward with any identifying information. So we're only hearing the police report at this time. This is fresh news from yesterday. So
hot off the press.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about things of people having guns and, you know, passing background checks and all of that for like people who are like school shooters and mass shooting. But also the constant threat of any interpersonal conflict that you could have that could be escalated to violence with a deadly weapon.
Yep. And then you get shot in the butt over a Hot Pocket. Hot Pocket.
Dude, Hot Pocket is having like some fast, like immediate recon meetings being like, how do we switch up our SEO? They're calling Tree Paine Taylor Swift's publicist and being like, how do we do this?
And the Hot Pocket was just came under some scrutiny because they've gotten rid of the little condom you put it in before you put it in the microwave. It's like a little sleeve.
That little, yeah.
They reformulated the crust, so then now they're crispier and then less waste, and people were shook.
The pocket doesn't need a pocket.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a big loss for the HP community. So damn, they really are on high. They're like, we need to catch a win. Stat. Right. Who do you think? Do you think that they'll have to get a spokesperson? Who's like the most? Shaq. I love that, but I was going to say, if they've got a Gen Z, they're getting Ronald from Jury Duty to do a Hot Pocket endorsement.
He's not Gen Z.
I'm saying like if a Gen Z person is on the team, they'll get someone who's like new and like someone who's very topical. But I would personally love, as Shaq's #1 fan, I would love solo Shaq, but I think Shaq would do a wonderful job with Ronald. I think as a duo together promoting Hot Pockets, they could do the everyman and then the there is nobody else like me, man.
Earlier today, as I was trying to find a news story, I came upon a lot of videos. That's why Shaq was top of mind. A lot of videos of little kids going up to hug Shaq, like just in awe of him. And they're like, I love you. And it'd be like, security's like, no. And Shaq's like, no, come over.
I love Shaq. Shaq supremacy. You know how much I love him. And I think everybody, I put him in, I put everyone else in competition with Shaq. And I'm like, just give up already. And you're like, they're not trying to be Shaq. Anyways, that's wild. Thank you for sharing with the class. I also hope the person who stole the Hot Pocket and was a victim of this crime receives a lifetime supply of future Hot Pockets.
Yeah. They make this person limp in with their bullet booty and they're like, they're with Shaq. It's them with Shaq. That's who it needs to be.
Oh yeah. Fuck Ronald. You're right. And I know they're not listening to this, and I'm sure their doctor will suggest, but for any butt, depending on the location, any butt ailment, donut pillows are a wonderful invention.
The BBL community.
No, listen, when I started seeing those, I was like, oh my God, representation for my fellow broken tailbone girls? No, it was BBLs. And I was like, solidarity and however I can take it. You're fucking strolling up to the nail salon with your donut pillow and me in 6th grade carrying it around to every single class. I feel seen in this, even though one of these things was a choice and the other was not.
I'm trying to imagine you with a BBL. It's hilarious, to be honest.
So my nomination for the Rachel of the Week is the Teachers Off Duty podcast. So I saw a clip on TikTok and I stitched said clip. And I wholeheartedly stand by what I said. It's about Meghan Trainor. The clip is not about Meghan Trainor, but I made it about Meghan Trainor. So this podcast, I guess, from my research of this, is kind of like a rotating cast of different teachers, teacher influencers, people who are social media presence. And so it's not like a constant, not like you and me on our podcast. It's like they have people kind of like a panel coming in and out on every episode. To me, that is that's not a like saving grace for like, oh, that makes this like better at all, because it makes it worse to me, because I go, so you have your pick of all of these fucking teachers and these are you work with these ones regularly and you have this not committed to this, like no one is, you can use anyone you want to use, like these people didn't start it, you don't fucking need them. But these teachers are kind of using it in the like, well, we didn't edit the clip, like we don't So it went viral on TikTok. I stitched one from, I was going to give credit to the person I stitched because I wouldn't have stitched it without, there's no stitch for me to stitch without their original video, but they took it down. So I guess I will shamelessly promote my TikTok. But they are discussing kids with IEPs. So one of the women on it says, talking about children who, quote unquote, barely qualify for IEPs. And she's airing her frustrations. An IEP stands for Individualized Education Program. It's a rigorous thing that involves like an entire like committee and references and people that a lot of people, it's really hard to get an IEP. So there is no barely qualifying. Like you either qualify for an IEP or you don't. And there are people who don't qualify for an IEP who should qualify for an IEP. Like this isn't oh, you're just skating by. Like, oh, you're just struggling enough that meeting these accommodations. And it's like by law, you have to meet these accommodations. And again, still, a lot of the time they are not upheld. And a lot of the time schools do not have the resources for them. Teachers do not have the time and education to do that. But the difference is being a student with a disability is not a choice. Being a teacher is a choice. I think teachers deserve to be paid exponentially more. I think they are in nearly impossible working situations and conditions. And I think that better working conditions would make teachers be better teachers. It would also foster people to stay within the career. They would be happier. They deserve to be far better compensated. But ultimately, at the end of the day, teaching can be a calling, but it is still a choice. So to view the I just have to vent about these things and unload as as a teacher, fine to do to a therapist, but to do so publicly, you're complaining about something that you might not be able to control your school environment, but you can control if you are going to be a teacher or not. It's an opt-in, but you don't opt into disability. So the guy then goes on to say that the best thing, he loves when they have a parent-teacher conference and he can call the parents in and talk about their student and say that they're DUMB, but they can't even spell it. So the kid can't know. And then he laughs.
Oh my gosh.
And they all laugh. And it's like, what the fuck? It literally was a double take moment for me where I was like, you're fucking kidding me. Because I have, so he said, talk crap about the kids there, because you could be like, this kid is dumb. I would be worried about him knowing what I'm saying, but he can't spell. So these teachers then, first the account issued an apology. So their first apology they did on their TikTok, which take in mind, the clip was posted from their official account. This wasn't someone who went and pulled this section from it on a different platform. They legitimately used this to promote the episode.
And used it to promote the episode and uploaded it.
Uh-huh. And these same teachers on this podcast, I don't know if it was the exact same ones on this podcast, but this podcast and these teachers also, when Meghan Trainor said, fuck teachers, in the context of Trisha Paytas talking about how she was severely bullied by teachers and Meghan Trainor's husband was as well. She spoke far too generally. She should have edited it, whatever. She said that. But the teachers were coming for her being like, you should have edited that out. The fact that you didn't edit, you stand by it. I'm like, okay. So they posted a written statement, multiple slides on their TikTok. Dear valued listeners, viewers, and followers, we recently posted a clip from an episode about a parent-teacher conferences on Teachers Off Duty podcast that included conversations in which we regret that our words and thoughts were not chosen carefully. You do choose your thoughts, Tim. We know this conversation has caused pain, and we apologize and take responsibility for everyone that it hurt, whether it be a student, parent, or fellow teacher. As teachers, we always want to advocate for our kids, and educators always try to keep them out of harm's way. Unfortunately, during the recording session, we fell short of that. Understatement of the fucking year. Additionally, looking back, a joke was made that upon listening to your concerns and reflecting, we see was wrong and in poor taste. Often we use comedy and humor on our podcast that we hope listeners understand is never intended to be malicious, and though intentions weren't meant to be so, the impact it left was. While there may be hundreds of other published episodes in which we show and express our support and how we advocate for our profession and our students, this one failed to do so. Thank you to everyone who called us in, for us to get an opportunity, blah, 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 blah. Then the woman and the man who were the two speaking in this segments, they did apologies, quote unquote apologies. And the first apologies that they did, because they both since had done second ones, heavily stressed that the clips were spliced together, edited together, and taken out of context. And the guy had the audacity to say in the actual podcast, and then shows like the clips for like shows like it in it goes, so we are talking about IEPs here, and like a full like minute and a half later, like we even like read an ad break or some shit like that. Like I'm talking about like this here, and like it's not even related. And I'm like, no, it's like literally the same thing. Like it's the whole theme of the episode. Like that's like legitimately what you're talking about. It's the same conversation. Like,
but even if they weren't related, he's still calling a student dumb. It doesn't, even if it's completely unrelated, it doesn't matter.
Well, that's what I'm like, it's never unrelated because you're talking about being a teacher and interacting with a student. Like that's the whole point. So it's like, oh, well, no. I wasn't calling a student with an IEP dumb. I was calling a different student dumb. And it's like, well,
doesn't matter.
You can't do either of those things. So they both have like since issued second apologies, but also I think they both should clearly, if you need to vent about your job and your work to the point where it is detrimental for other people, specifically an oppressed group of people and a marginalized group of people, you need to get out. That's your sign that you need to get out of your job. Like you have to. Like it is, if it's weighing on you so much that you need to do that in a public setting and you need to laugh about that, you have an ability to change this. They do not have an ability to change. You do. So in that moment, you have to fucking remove yourself from that situation. And you also do not get to use dark humor and coping at the expense of other people. The only thing you can have dark humor about is your own experiences. And you do not have an experience with IEPs, even as a teacher in that sense. Unless you are a student with a disability or you are a parent and an advocate for it, you do not get to joke about students with IEPs being dumb. Parents can't even joke about that. As a student, you can, with an IEP, you can joke about your own level of like, but you can't make broad statements about what this means for other people. Like you do not get to do that because you have, by proximity, you feel like you have a grasp on this. It's fucked. Like it's just so fucked. The fact that they have all of these teachers rotating, coming in and out has made it hard for people to even find the specific teachers who've talked about this and like find their accounts and like who they are, because they're kind of a little bit buried. And the one teacher who, when I was watching it, I was like, who is this? Because he started doing all of these clips, or no, he started like stitching the things and like talking all about it. There was one guy who was there and kind of like laughed along. Yeah, Mr. Williams Prek on TikTok, who laughed along, didn't say anything really, like laughed along, didn't participate in it, and has made the most effort of it, and has been had the first apology, like had a true heartfelt apology, and was like, I'm mortified. This needs to be a learning experience from me. And has even said now, like, I need to step away from the internet for a bit. Has like, we're doing things of like, I'm the student, like I'm learning about this and this. And like, did you know this? And he's like, I'm constantly learning about these things. And he was a bystander. And to me, that is like, okay, that is where I look at someone who had a horrifically awful, horrible time in school. Like I was called stupid by teachers. Like I had all this. Like when Meghan Trainor thing happened, I was like, I'm so sorry. Like like, what do you mean we're taking this out of context? Like, I feel like anybody can understand that like there are really, really, really horrible and awful teachers. Like there's a teacher that I had who punched a student and still works at school. A teacher who threw a desk at an elementary school, one of my elementary school classmates, still works in school. It's like, there are horrible, awful, awful fucking teachers. And the idea that like, we can't say that, you can't say that, like teachers go through so much. I'm like, I don't think you don't associate yourselves with these, like with this at all. Like the idea that you can't call that out because it then negates any of like the hard struggles that teachers go through and good teachers go through. Like the system does not make you ableist. Like I do strongly believe that the education system is not built for neurodivergent or disabled kids. Like it's not. It's really built for people who do not need a lot of assistance, like in the traditional school system. But it does not, you don't go into being an educator, as a advocate for students with disabilities, and you don't walk away being ableist. Like, that's a choice that you have. And there are shitty fucking people who get jobs and then they make them worse fucking people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about it in the same way that I do like shitty medical professionals. It's like this hero complex that you can't say anything. Yeah, you can't have any critique of it. And if when you come for them, it's like, oh, well, you try doing what I do for a day. And I go, but so are you telling me then that you say these things, you call kids dumb, you do all of this stuff because you have to, because your job is so hard? I'm like, who's requiring you to do that? That's a personal choice. There are some people who should just not fucking be teachers. And there are people who have the calling to be teachers. And I think there are a lot of people who would be fantastic teachers, but there's not a lot of support there. So then they decide to not be teachers. And so then you've got a lot of fucking people who are like, I'm power hungry. I want to be an authoritative figure. Like, I want to call the shots. I want to have control. I want to tell people what to do. I want to have all of that. I want to feel like a fucking ruler. And I'm going to do it even though the circumstance and the situation does not foster an environment where I can do a lot of good in educating people. Like, I'm valuing the power. And like, it's just really, really, really fucked up. And I know the circumstances and the situations in which like we can foster better when teachers have better support in and outside of the classroom. They will be better teachers, but it does not make people bad teachers. Like, it is your job to advocate for your students, because also like I needed an IEP without a fucking doubt, but like you have to have parents advocating for you and teachers advocating for you. If you do not have both, or either, if you don't have both, like that in my case, if you don't have both, like you've reached a wall. And I don't like look down on any of my teachers for not trying to fight harder for that kind of stuff, because I know that their resources aren't there. But those were never the teachers who were calling me dumb. Like, there's a huge distinction and a huge fucking difference between all of those things. And you should be fighting back against the administration for things that are not fair and that are not okay. And you see injustice happening all the fucking time. So like, why would you contribute to that when it can be avoided? Like, there are things that are out of your control that are not fair to the students and are not inclusive and are not okay. And that will weigh on you. So then why would you create those instances yourself? Like, if I was a student, if I was a parent, I would pull my kid out of that class, write the superintendent. I would so fucking fast. So fucking fast. So Lily and Jesse, their podcast, Do We Know Them? They talked about this. Her son is autistic, and she talked about one of the hardest things was that for a lot of parents, your kids aren't necessarily able to explain what is going on if something were to happen at school. So you have to trust your teachers to be forthcoming about information. And so when you find out, a lot of parents will find out that their children are being abused, mistreated at school, and they find it out a long time afterwards because their kids cannot express that and convey that and let their parents know that that's what's going on. A whole other level of fucked up. Like, you're understanding what someone is being said to you, and then you're unable to communicate that to the safe adults in your life, that the other adult who they think is a safe adult is no longer one. So fuck those teachers. They do not deserve their fucking jobs. They should not work in schools or with children or with children with disabilities or without fucking disabilities, with or without IEPs.
They should not be working with students, period.
Nope. Okay.
Right.
Well, that is it for the episode. We hope you enjoyed. As always, leave us a review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. You can also review for the individual episode. Check us out on our socials, and you can always tag us on TikTok, on Twitter, Instagram if you see something you want us to talk about, or slide into DM and be like, hey, would love for you to talk about that. Everybody who's like, Meghan, are you going to talk about Taylor Swift, Maddie Healy? No, he desperately wants attention, and I'm not going to give him yet another platform for that. There are so many people who are talking about it wonderfully and giving lots of insight. When people are trying to control a public narrative, I do not enjoy participating in someone trying to, you know what I mean? Like, this is a goal. It's a goal for people to talk about this and create discourse. And there is no fucking way I will ever create a discourse where people feel comfortable defending Nazi behavior. It's not going to happen. It's not going to fucking happen. But Am I Wrong is a production by me, Megan Rinks.
And me, Melisa DeMont, plus Diamond Imprint Productions.
Post-production by Coco Lorenz.
And production assistance by Melanie D. Watson.
Merry Christmas, everybody! My name is Eric Peterson. I'm here with my good buddy,
Danny Jordan.
and we are the hosts of Christmas Countdown Show.
We're so thrilled to be bringing the merriment to you all this holiday season. On Christmas Countdown, we love to count down our top 10 favorite things related to the holiday season. That could be food, movies, music, everything that we all love about this massively merry good time. So wherever you get your podcasts, make sure you click that subscribe button. Eric, are you ready?
I am ready, and we hope that you are too. Merry Christmas, everybody! Let's go!
Welcome to the small town of Chinook, where faith runs deep and secrets run deeper. In this new thriller, religion and crime collide when a gruesome murder rocks the isolated Montana community. Everyone is quick to point their fingers at a drug-addicted teenager, but local deputy Ruth Vogel isn't convinced. She suspects connections to a powerful religious group. Enter federal agent V.B. Laureau, who has been investigating a local church for possible criminal activity. The pair form an unlikely partnership to catch the killer, unearthing secrets that leave Ruth torn between her duty to the law, her religious convictions, and her very own family. But something more sinister than murder is afoot, and someone is watching Ruth.
Chinook, starring Kelly Marie Tran and Sanaa Lathan. Listen to Chinook wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, a co-founder of the Go Kid Go network. At Go Kid Go, putting kids first is at the heart of every show that we produce. That's why we're so excited to introduce a brand new show to our network called The Search for the Silver Lining, a fantasy adventure series about a spirited young girl named Isla who time travels to the mythical land of Camelot. During her journey, Isla meets new friends, including King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table, and learns valuable life lessons with every quest, sword fight, and dragon ride. Positive and uplifting stories remind us all about the importance of kindness, friendship, honesty, and positivity. Join me and an all-star cast of actors including Liam Neeson, Emily Blunt, Kristen Bell, Chris Hemsworth, among many others, in welcoming the Search for the Silver Lining podcast to the Go Kid Go network by listening today. Look for the Search for the Silver Lining on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.